Today I want to introduce you to a watch that stole my heart in the blink of an eye. Hey there and welcome back. This is Felix from Goldhammer Vintage Watches. It is an 18 karat gold Omega Constellation with Dusto gold bracelet from 1958. You will learn all about the design of the 50s constellation and the story behind this beautifully crafted gold bracelet. Born in 1952, the constellation is undoubtedly a feast for the eyes across all decades and references. Of course, each of you out there has different preferences when it comes to watch design. But I'm particularly impressed by the 50s pipe hand because they have a very special influence on my collector's heart. With this constellation, I would like to share with you why this is the case. But before we get lost in design details, let's start with a few short facts about this beautiful constellation. Production year 1958. Reference 2852 SC. Produced from 1952 to 62. Dimensions 34 mm 3-body case with snap-on case back, 45 mm from lug to lug, 11 mm thick case. The bracelet from the South American producer Dusto measures 17 mm in width and fits up to a wrist circumference of 19 cm. Movement Omega caliber 505 with a 46-hour power reserve. But apart from the specific design details of our reference 5852, there are many similarities among the 1950s constellations. The hands are almost exclusively Dauphine shaped, the pieces are round of course, the movements are automatic with center seconds, the crowns are mostly faceted, and we find a very unique lug shape often referred to as doglegs or curvy lugs. A lesser known feature is also that these pieces could come in 3 different finishing levels: standard, deluxe and grand luxe. But let's dive deeper into the design of today's constellation. Imagine holding this Connie in your own hands. What's the first thing that catch your eyes about the design? To be honest, I have to admit that it wasn't a beautiful solid gold patinated pipe hand dial with arrowhead indexes and classic timeless Dauphine hands. I'm almost ashamed to say it, but it was actually the beautiful design bracelet that caught my attention like chewing gum under a shoe. I don't know about you, but for me this brick pattern bracelet produced by Dusto is a perfect addition to the overall design of this constellation. But Dusto who? From the late 1950s to the 1970s, Dusto covered the South American market by producing bracelets for some of the most famous watchmakers, as always to avoid import taxes. Because the bracelet of a gold watch with its high weight determined the highest gold value of a watch. It made sense to produce it in the receiving countries. The watch bodies were therefore sent to South America without bracelets and fitted with these beautiful brick-link bracelets on behalf of Omega to Dusto before being sold. Furthermore, from 1960 to 1970, Dusto mainly produced precious metal bracelets for Rolex models such as the Day-Date, the Datejust and the GMT Master. Based on the DA stamp on the inside of the clasp of our constellation, we can determine that Omega delivered this Connie to Venezuela in the late 1950s, where it was finished with the Dusto bracelet before being sold. Under the magnifying glass, we can once again see the attention to detail that the South American artists put into these bracelets. Each individual brick has a unique wave pattern, which, when we zoom out again, creates these beautiful breaks in the light. It is responsible for that extra bling and twist without being too over the top. I would describe it as a subtle flex. There's no question that these bracelets are extremely rare because they are very hard to find on today's market. I can well imagine how the customer's eyes must have lit up when he puts this piece the first time on his wrist and leaving the shop in the end of the 1950s. It must have been an amazing feeling to walk out of the boutique with this watch. And please don't forget, South America at the end of the 50s. If we open the snap-on caseback of this beauty, we find more interesting, rather unknown information. Here, in addition to other stamps such as the reference and the fine gold content, we find the so-called Poinçon du Maître, which means stamp of the master with the key of Geneva symbol. This small stamp tells us that the case was produced in Geneva by Antoine Gerlach SA, a case manufacturer that was founded in 1934 and produced cases for various watch houses until 1977. So, what is an Omega Constellation? What makes this collection special, if not its looks? It is the pursuit of precision. One thing all constellations have in common is their chronometer status, a level of precision and accuracy that goes beyond normal standards. Our reference is brought to life by the Omega caliber 505 and, together with the 501, replaced the bumper movements found in constellations before 1956. The very first constellation models were equipped with the caliber 354, a so-called bumper automatic. Unlike the modern automatic winding rotor, which performs a full 360 rotation, the bumpers in these early automatic watches only move in a short direction before hitting a spring that reverses their movement. Omega's technical achievements in the manufacture of these movements cannot be overestimated. At a time when modern precision mechanical devices were not available, Omega was able to mass produce an absolute workhorse caliber that is nonetheless refined and well crafted. I always fall in love with the rich red color of the copper plating on the bridges and the winding rotor of these vintage Omega models. At 34 mm, the watch is perhaps a little small for modern tastes, but our customers are often surprised at how well it fits on larger wrists. And as the trend for the big watch fortunately continues to go down, thanks to brands such as Cartier, watches like this are becoming increasingly desirable, especially if you consider their historic heritage. So let us now turn to the dial. The attention to detail is phenomenal. The Omega engineers and designers of the time created a well-constructed kaleidoscope, incorporating every square millimeter of the dial. Among the 1950s dial variants are the so-called pie pen, which owes its name to the geometric 12-sided raised dial framed by polished arrow hour markers, and the dome dial of some references. The pie pen version is still the most sought after, as it is considered the most iconic dial variant. However, constellations with dome dials offer a far cleaner and less conspicuous look, making them the ideal dress watch. More importantly, dome dials models are generally much cheaper than pie pen pieces, even though they both have the same movement. In this table, we have put together a summary of all pie pen references. You will find the references, the production period, available dials, hour markings, date, lux, and variants. Over the course of these first couple of years, Omega did actually use 3 different numbering systems. The classic 2-letter 4-digit system prior to 1962 and the more modern 3-digit dot system from 1962 to 1988, and an overlapping 5-digit period between 1958 and 1962. But I don't want to go into all the references here, but I just list them briefly for completeness. So you can simply go back and take a screenshot to access them if you ever need it. The pie pen constellation is a true classic of the late 1950s and early 60s and carries much of the spirit of its time. Originally intended to challenge Rolex Datejust, it rightly became its own success story. Modern watches may be more accurate than the original constellations, but they cannot surpass the story that began with this classic. I hope this piece has inspired your collector's heart as much as it has mine. Have a great day and hope to see you again in our next video.